Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one and only Hawg Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. We're part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like, rate, and review our podcast. And all live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in Ozark, Arkansas. I'm your host, Porter Hayes, and alongside me is Jacob Davis. And our broadcast is brought to you by Bet Online, which remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. With NBA playoffs, you always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. Fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. So go on over to Bet Online and use our 50% welcome code BLEAV to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. And we are pleased to bring you via the Meadors Lumber Hotline, Kevin Bohannon, the guru. Postseason, man, it seems like yesterday we were bringing you on to preview the season.
Yeah.
Here we are. We're talking about the bet. I'm telling you, and I'm not trying to be a sunshine pumper to you, Kevin, but if you want to talk about the jump between regular season and postseason, there's nothing like postseason baseball. I mean, I know you have March Madness, but there's just something about postseason baseball that gets a different group, a different type of fan base. And when you've got fans already lining up, camping out
8 days out, yeah.
That just shows you. But going into this, you knew Arkansas was set. We said 3-4. I was talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Worst case scenario 4, best case scenario 3, and they ended up with the 3 seed. Just talk about, I mean, the team, the resilience. I mean, we've talked about it for weeks now on what this team has done with the grind and the injuries. And your prediction preseason and where they're at now, and that was before the injuries. Just talk about what this team's overcome and where they're at now.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on, guys. It's great to be back on Hawg Talk, first of all. Preseason, I had them 18-12 in conference behind LSU, and I think everybody would have been okay with that. 18-12. Last year is not 18-12 this year, obviously, because there were 4 SEC teams that had won 16 or 17 games that got to host this season, and Arkansas was a 2 seed last year. So they've got to figure that stuff out, but that's a whole other conversation. This team, and looking back over the whole body of work, it's been the same team no matter what players have been in there. So no matter who's on the mound or who's at second base, who's at third base, shortstop, behind the plate, they've all produced at certain points during the season. And that's what goes to the recruiting and the depth of this team that Dave Van Horn was talking about before the season. Look, on paper, this is the deepest pitching staff I've ever had. That turned out to be true because you lose Jackson Wiggins, you lose Brady Taggart for 2/3 of the season, and Cody Frank goes down. Well, Zach Morris, who was, turned down money to come back, was a no-show for the first part of the season, gets to the last week of the season, has a good outing against Vanderbilt, good outing at SEC tournament. So now he's a force to be reckoned with going forward, just like he was last year in the postseason, super regional, super regional, and College World Series. So no matter who it's been, they've always stepped up. And you look back, okay, the one bad weekend they had against Georgia, they went 0-3. Okay. Other than that, they swept Tennessee, swept A&M. They beat A&M 4 out of 5 times, and A&M was a top 5 preseason team. Now, did they underperform? Yeah, a little bit compared to where they were. Arkansas was, 8-12. One publication had them at 21. We won't say them on live air because that's just ridiculous. But, 18-12, and I think I had them 2 or 3 games off. They've already won 41 games. That's big. So, and I was talking to Porter about this the other day, and we see this in basketball and football all the time. Of okay, Alabama's won the most games since whatever year, or Kansas in basketball, or Kentucky, not anymore in basketball, but Arkansas since 2017 has won more games than any other program in the nation. So yes, it's a blue blood. Yes, it's a blue chip program. And now everybody's just waiting for the big one. They're waiting for Dave Van Horn to get that national title. That's where we're at as a program right now. And I remember back, and it was the year Casey Martin came out of high school in 2017. His freshman year, of course, was when Arkansas was a runner-up to Oregon State. And I remember talking to a scout, and I've said this on the show before. They said, this is where Arkansas takes off. I was like, what do you mean? He said, usually you come up here, you got 6 or 8 guys that you know are going to be drafted. Now you got 18. And it's been like that ever since. So when you're stacking 18 professional prospects on top of each other year after year, just look at last year's lineup, guys. All of them get drafted. The only one that didn't was he went to Grand Canyon and is having a good year. So that's where they're at right now. The pitching staff, they made it work. Hagen Smith did his job. He did not whine one bit about it because he was the dude coming in, shoved down in Arlington, went all through the preseason, non-conference slate, gets to the conference plate, and they're, okay, we're going to move you to the back end. Okay, great. Put Hunter Holland up there. They beat LSU. They beat Paul Skeens, not once but twice. So it just goes back to saying, no matter who's stepping into the plate or who's stepping on the mound, they've been the same person. They've been the same team throughout the whole season.
I wanted to ask you, and I think I'd mentioned this to you the other day when we were texting. I'm not saying they haven't been elite, but is this the first year they've proven that they were an elite team because of what they've been able to do? It's not your front line. You see it in Alabama football when a linebacker goes and it's plug and play. What they've been able to do with their bench and their injuries and still remain a number 3 seed, this to me is proven. This is the proof on paper that this is an elite program. And if any other year, Dave Van Horn, and I don't know if they're going to give it to the Wake Forest coach or who's going to get, but if any other year, I think Dave Van Horn, he deserves to be coach of the year because 3 seed and all the list of injuries they've dealt with, that is truly remarkable.
Yeah, and because there's a lot of comparisons to 2021 right now, and those are 2 totally different years, and in terms of how they won. Okay, you had freshman phenom in Caden Wallace, and then Kevin Kopps just did something that had really never been done before, and Arkansas wins every series. So they didn't do that this year. So to your point, Porter, yes, it shows that they can win with anybody, and they can take a John Bolton and put him at shortstop who got his scholarship pulled at Austin Peay because he wanted to bet on himself. They can take a Peyton Holt who's a rebound from Louisiana Lafayette, went to Crowder, wanted to play, wanted to be a Hog. So Peyton Stovall goes down, who coming into the season is, one of your guys that you're looking at saying, okay, he can be that guy. And now Peyton's hitting 395. You got Jace Borfin, who started out the first half of the season on fire, which we were all waiting for. Like, all right, he's done it in fall ball and he's done it in the summer at the Cape. Why is he not doing it at Arkansas? Well, he's finally doing it at Arkansas. And then you got guys like Jared Wagner, missed, however many 4 or 5 weeks that he missed. Tavian Josenberger. Just think back, guys. We're talking about all these transfers when they came in and being like, who the hell are these guys? Why are we getting 96 infielders? We need a center fielder. And little did we know, the great kazoo behind the curtain back there, Dave Van Horn's being like, I got it. Just wait. Patience here. And it reminded me of when Tony Vitello left to go to Tennessee. And we're sitting there at Arvest Ballpark in Springdale. And this was right before he hired Nate Thompson. And we're talking to Coach Van Horn about, who he might hire and everything. And he goes out and hires Nate, who they just played Missouri State, and Missouri State had, 2 first-round draft picks. He walks up to us, what do you think about my hire? Like, guys, I know what I'm doing here. So it just it just makes me think back to that moment, like just trusting the man. He's there and he is who he is for a reason. So just trust in him.
Yeah, and trust in him. Like there has been points throughout the season where people were like, "Oh, what's Dave doing? What's Dave doing?" But you talk about the Peyton Holtz. Embrace the importance of these young guys, these guys that nobody knew about coming into the season. Explain the importance of these second stringers coming in and playing valuable moments throughout the season. And will that overflow into the postseason play, do you think?
Well, it's like he said in the play that Holt made when they were doing a interview with Van Horn. They're not backups; they're future starters. Jason Jones. Everybody thought he was going to come in and be the freshman that got the most attention. No, it's been Gage Wood, rightfully so. Just because there was a logjam over there and Caleb Calley has done so well at third base that you can't put Jones out there. But Jones has still gotten some reps, had a great play against Vandy last weekend. Mason Neville's gotten his time, but think of Ben McLaughlin. So Ben's hitting 350. He started 18 games, played in 29. Wegner comes back, they insert him and everything's back to normal. And McLaughlin is the guy that's on the bench not getting every day at bats now. He comes in against A&M the other day, one pitch, whack, left center field, scores a run. So those guys always have to be ready, and there's no ego. That's the issue with a lot of teams now is freshmen and guys that transfer in, they think they're owed something right away. And it's the entitlement era that we're in. So that's the culture that Van Horn and his coaching staff have built there. And Coach Hobbs especially, he don't care who you are. If you don't throw strikes and get guys out, you're not going to pitch. We've seen multiple top 50, top 100 pitchers come in and not make it because they can't hold up to that. They got too much of an ego and they don't want to work. So they go to a JUCO or some also ran school that's not playing anymore this season. So it's a great point to the depth that they've built and the type of player that they bring in. I've gotten to talk to Jared Wagner so many times this year about just weekly of the culture that they've built and they've brought in. It's like Lanzilli last year, Michael Turner. They're looking for a specific person, Tavian Josenberger. I mean, it's perfect. He's going to be a top 5-round draft pick this year. So they're bringing these guys in that not only fit the need, but they fit the culture as well.
That's very similar to what Coach Colby Hill with the soccer team does. You're at that elite. You can pick from the best of the best. So you're trying to fit on who fits your system the best. But as we break down this bracket and we see, Arkansas got the top 3 seed and looking at their regional, and we'll answer Matt Hart's question before we break down Arkansas's regional. It's who do you think? We'll ask this around the horn, start with Jacob, Kevin, and I'll answer. But who do you think has the toughest regional looking at the bracket?
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead, Jacob. Yeah, cheers. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I saw, Florida has a pretty tough regional. They're the overall number 2 seed in the country. Trying to get it pulled back up. Let's see here. They've got a pretty hard one. If I'm not going to pick Arkansas, it's going to be this one. And let me pull this up. They have Florida A&M, which I think this is the first time that they have been in the show, in the NCAA tournament, and since like 1997, I could be wrong. They have Texas Tech and UConn, which are 2 pretty good, solid teams, I believe. I think if I'm not going with Arkansas, I think it's going to be that one.
So I'm going to go to the super regional matchup that the Fayetteville regional has to face, and that's Terre Haute. So North Carolina, obviously, you know their history. 06, 07, back-to-back, made it to the championship series. But those guys is a 3 seed coming out of the ACC. That's tough. And then Iowa's got the arms to beat anybody in that bracket. So that's a tough one right there. Arkansas on paper, it's tough because they all 4 teams can hit. Arkansas has the lowest batting average out of all those. And, you got a 295, a 320 in Arizona, and the other one's like 303. So, Santa Clara's hitting 300 on the year and 295 for TCU. So they're all going to hit. Now, nobody really pitches anymore outside of Paul Skeens and the Rhett Lauder for Wake Forest. Everybody else has like a 4.6 ERA in the world right now, it seems. But that's just where college baseball is right now. The backspin, the long ball averaging, exit velos with all that good stuff. So you're not going to see a lot of pitching. You may see some high-scoring games in the Fayetteville regional. But, yeah, that Terre Haute, I could see any of those top three teams winning that regional.
And I know I'm going to seem like I'm showing bias for a second, but you look at that Clemson regional, and you got Tennessee, Charlotte, and Lipscomb. But I'm telling you what, Charlotte's no slouch.
Leaders Lipscomb. They beat Arkansas.
And then you got Tennessee. So that right there. And listen, Clemson's not this would be a different story if you had, say, Clemson was a 8-seed or a 9-seed or a 10-seed. There are 4 right behind Arkansas, and they just, I guess, hey, prove to us that you're a 4 seed. But yeah, that's a pretty brutal. And I'll tell you what, even if they don't get out of that regional, that's nothing to hang your hat on, because Tennessee showed flashes. Charlotte, I believe they beat South Carolina. And then, of course, Lipscomb beat Arkansas. But that's top to bottom. It'd be hard to sit there and, it's not like you got LSU up there playing Tulane. It's 19-47, or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Tulane had to go somewhere, though. And some people had them going to Fayetteville, but they were going to stay in the South. They were going to stay, close to home. But, the selection committee, and they tell everybody, they're like, look, okay, we want to get them as close to regionals as possible. And 15 of the 16 hosts are in the Southeast United States when you look at the map as a whole. And then you got Stanford out there on the left coast. And they're the only team that's, past the mountain time zone that's, a host this year. So you're going to have teams travel that, qualified from outside of the Southeast United States. So, Santa Clara, everybody's going to have to come over here. Getting 2 teams from California is interesting because it's a different brand of ball out there. And it used to be a lot of small ball, which, Jay Johnson was known for Arizona when he was over there, but they got Chase Davis. He's got 21 bombs, 74 RBIs. He hit one ball in the Pac-12 tournament that I still don't think has landed, and NASA picked it up. They thought it was a missile from North Korea. So that dude could flat out swing it from the left side, and he watch out, because that young man, he's going to be a first-round draft pick this year.
Well, and then we'll wrap it up with, or not wrap it up, but we'll move on, because you put out a couple of great tweets about really breaking down this region and some players for the other teams that really to watch out for, and some teams to face. Talk about Arkansas region, and this is not a slouch either. I mean, it really favors Arkansas, where they can get somebody, out of Indiana State, or like you said, North Carolina. But how well does this regional face up as we're talking about matchups in Arkansas coming out of this regional?
Yeah, so Santa Clara is going to be a tough one right away. They're not going to be a Central Connecticut or some directional school. They're going to play a good brand of baseball. And I've seen some kids over the last few years that have gone on to play at a Santa Clara or San Diego, and those guys play good baseball. So it's going to be a team that they put the ball in play. They don't strike out a ton of guys in their pitching staff, so they pitch to contact quite a bit. They're going to try to get you out. So everything is really similar among these 4 teams on paper, whether it's fielding percentage, home runs. It's anywhere from 72 to 93, with Arizona having the most, and then Santa Clara having the least right there. But, they got a 400 on base percentage as a team. That's really good. So every 2 out of 5 guys is going to get on base. They're not going to, like I said, they're not going to strike out a whole lot of guys. Their strikeout to walk ratio is 2.5 to 1, which is not great. But, out there, they do a lot of contact hitting, and especially in California, they put the ball in play. Everything put pressure on the team. That's their name of the game. They finished 3rd in the West Coast Conference behind Portland, who's the number 2, and then Loyola Marymount, who won the regular season at 21-6. So, yeah, you got it pulled up right there. Perfect. They beat Portland and just went on to win the West Coast Conference title. We've had some run-ins with Gonzaga, however you want to say it. They've been to Fayetteville, so you know the type of ball club you're going to get in the Broncos, and for every Hog fan out there, that is their mascot. It's the Broncos. So they had 3 second-team all-conference players, and then they had some that were honorable mentions. So outfielder Michael O'Hara, he's a over 300 hitter. He's got 3 home runs, a few RBIs there. So you can see the stats listed right there. You guys are prepared tonight. That's awesome. Man, it just really kind of, I don't get it. Like the selection committee, they talked about the RPI and everything. How in the world do you go 12-18 and get in the NCAA tournament without winning it all? Yeah. So 12-18 for Arizona. They're looking at something, but yeah, they got some ball players.
But they could be looking at the front of their jersey, and that is where also when people look at this region, I know you got to take every game seriously, but they're looking at the front of the jerseys and they're like, oh my gosh, Arkansas got stacked. But then you break down like how you've got it broken down. You're like, oh, well, they're really not as strong as the Arizonas of the past, or TCU's past. But even Dave Van Horn, when asked about Santa Clara, he's like, I don't know nothing.
Yeah. But he's honest. He's transparent about it. But I'll go back to Arlington and when we played TCU, and I was at that game, and Cam Brown, who we probably will see in the second game, hard throwing righty. He started against us down there in Arlington. We might see him. He's their number 2. Got to see him since he was 14, 15 years old. He's from Texas. Kid throws hard with a really good slider. But, dude, there was not an easy out in their lineup. I mean, it was yak. And Will McIntyre had a terrible day. I mean, he was just – everything was over the plate, and they're hammering everything. So – Gage Wood, that was his first appearance in front of 15,000 people, came in with the bases loaded. Well, it was just a bad experience. So, once you get 2 or 3 games into this thing, that's where you start to find the depth of these programs. And, it's like Jim Schlossnagle from Texas A&M said the other day, they played 6 games last week. That's a long week. But they had 19,000 left-handers in the bullpen. Nobody likes hitting lefties. That's what they threw against Arkansas. So, there's strategery, as George W. Bush would say, in how you go about winning these regionals. It's, you got to win 3 games, sometimes 4 if you lose early on. Arkansas, they need to go 2-0 because I wonder about the depth coming back to biting them if they lose one of the first 2 games.
And then you got a comment by Steve that says if the top of the lineup doesn't start hitting, we are not getting out of the regionals. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have guys that are hitting lefties, and getting Josenberger back and Wagner. They've got games under them now. They've got at bats. They've got reps, and they're going to be more comfortable out there. And the friendly confines of Baum Stadium goes a long way with players' psyche too. And I mentioned this on Twitter earlier also. So the total attendance for Santa Clara this year is 9,152 fans. That's for every home game.
Bless their heart.
That's not an average. So you're going to have 11,000 people there, even on Friday afternoon at 2:00. So the players will be up for it. These guys have played well at home.
Hell, there's more people lined up right now outside in the tents than they've had.
I mean, they're averaging 353 per game.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so I look at it this way. Yeah, the top of the lineup needs to hit to win it. They don't need to hit every game. You're not going to have – if you have a game where everybody's on, it's going to be like Stanford last year in the College World Series. We beat them 17 to whatever and ran them out of the park. So they'll get past Santa Clara. I have no problem with that. I think they start Hunter Holland. Of course, I don't know that. Coach Van Horn maybe be like, okay, Hagan, go get us a win. But I think they're comfortable in starting Will McIntyre. I don't think they will because I think they like Will McIntyre in that role where he can throw 3 innings twice in a weekend because he did it this past weekend, and he'll do great at it. I think he's settled into that role now, and you got 3 really good starters in Smith, Holland, and Tiger.
And really another point in what we talked about earlier today was just the presence of Dave Van Horn. We've always seen him as this buttoned up, like not like an extreme Nick Saban that type, but business type.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing him in this new light. And I really want to appreciate, and give a shout out to Hogs Plus for, they're behind the scenes, and you're really getting to see him in a different light and see him really kind of relax. What effect do you think that's had on this team this year? Is, you don't have all these all-stars. I mean, you didn't have one player in the all-tournament team. You had one guy named to the all-SEC first team. So what does that say? Do you think that has had a huge impact on this team, just him being that relaxed, or it's come with his tenure?
So there's always been a saying that you don't want to be too high or too low. You just want to be right there above the surface. And that's how you're the most successful, whether it's in life, business, athletics. You see a lot of players that are just – Caden Wallace was a perfect example. Caden would show emotion, but it was his own way. He would get vocal when he needed to, but he never really got down on himself either. And I think that's what you see in a Jared Wagner, a Jace Borfin. Slavens is a little bit more vocal, but, the pitchers, they always have the adrenaline flowing through them, and we're a different breed as it is. So don't worry about pitchers when I say that. But I think it's a reflection of that coaching staff, and Coach Van Horn kind of, and he would be the first to say this, he's kind of mellowed out over the last 4 or 5 years. He's not the drill sergeant that he came in because he runs a hard program. You have to be mentally tough to play for that man. And that's where these guys get the mental acuity to come out there and do their job every pitch. It's not every inning, not every game. It's every pitch. And that's how you get to number 3 in the nation and win the most games in the last 7 seasons.
And you talk about the mental side of things. Kendall Diggs is 7 for 16 with the bases loaded and 24 RBIs.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible? Like
Yeah.
when you cannot rattle the kid. I mean, he had the opportunity during the SEC tournament to have gone ahead against Texas A&M and make the finals. But what do you think Kendall Diggs' impact is so far, as coming in as kind of a raw freshman, then turning in that showed the explosive ability? Do you think that carries over into the postseason?
There is so much growth between a first and second year player that I don't think the casual baseball fan realizes it. Look at 2014 to 2015, Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah.
Heck, look at Kevin Kopps. I mean, just think about the growth that these guys go through in 1 year of being in college. And, Coach Van Horn said, look, Diggs is going to be in the lineup. He can hit. I mean, it's, they got to find a position for him, and they think his position is an outfield in pro ball. So when they were able to, they stuck him out there, and he got better in right field. I mean, we saw that with Wagner out, and they had to shift Jace over when TJ went out. So having a guy like that, I got to sit behind his family a couple of times last year, and one of them was the Ole Miss walk-off on Saturday night. That was huge for them. So, having somebody like that, you knew he could take that next step, and realizing that potential just takes it to another level that these kids can compete on a high level day in, day out.
And, just to wrap this up, other things that you've done, and this is what I kind of want to end on is your other venue or your other stuff that you do. And that's the high school stuff that you and Kyle and really what y'all have done for SB Live Arkansas to blow up the high school. I mean, y'all do not get enough praise. I know you get a lot, but you do not get enough praise for how y'all have taken the state of Arkansas by storm in every sport and become one of the leaders in all sports high school. So again, talk about, really plug, the SB Live, your rankings, and how much fun that's been to cover high school sports in the state of Arkansas.
So a little bit of background on me. I did not go into coaching right out of college. I got a degree. I wanted to go to pharmacy school and then didn't get in. Like, I applied twice at UAMS, and they were like, hey, we like you, but you're not a pharmacist. So, all right, cool. I'll go find it. The closest degree at the time to the number of hours I had was a health science degree with the emphasis on community health promotion. All right, cool. I went into sales, and I wanted to do something in sports. So I worked with a company that sold, letter jackets and award systems to high schools and colleges. So I realized early on that it was about relationships. And when I decided that, hey, I wanted to, kind of give the coaching thing a run back in 2011 and went to North Pulaski. And you guys, the football program there did not have, they had one winning season in their entire history. So it was about forming relationships at that time. And I started umpiring and, got to know some people and then really got back into the high school game. And 5 years ago, I went to Randy Rainwater and I said, Randy, man, nobody's covering high school baseball like they used to. You used to see rankings and stats, game write-ups, box scores every week in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Now, the Eric Taylor, Sam Lane, those guys do a great job with the limited staff they have. And I've talked to Eric. Eric's a good friend of mine. They just don't have enough manpower to do what they used to do back in the late 90s. So, I went to Randy and he was like, look, you come on. I've never been on radio a day in my life. So he said, look, I'll teach you that. You just talk what you know. So that's where it started. And Nate Olson gave me the opportunity because I was doing just freelance for the AP. Just, hey, here's some rankings. Know some guys around the state that cover it. PBR had done a good job at the time, but they're a scouting service. They're not a media outlet. So we wanted to get these guys, these student athletes, noticed on a level that is worthy of their talent. And that is at the core of it all. So being able to do that is something that I take great pride in, and knowing that I've been able to see these kids grow up from, a Casey Martin, Caden Wallace, Jackson Wiggins. I know he's from Oklahoma, but he's a Razorback. And you've got some exciting guys coming to Fayetteville in the next couple of years, and the train is not going to stop rolling down the tracks. But, Scorebook Live has done a great job of giving a platform for feature stories, not only the rankings and, the All Arkansas teams that will be out next week, but the feature stories. So you get to know what these kids are like off the field and the accomplishments that they've made, the 4.2 GPAs, the 36 ACTs. Drew Grumble's going to Johns Hopkins on a full ride scholarship next year from Episcopal, and Johns Hopkins is ranked number 1 in Division III this year. They were 39-4 at one point. So getting to see stories like that is why I do it. And I do it as a side job. And that's, it's Amber, my wife, calls it more of a hobby because it's a passion. It's not work at that point, Yeah, putting together the stats and putting them in AP format the way it should be done. Yeah, that's work. But, getting to see some, and our All Arkansas team will be released this next week, but I'll give you a preview. The first team outfield, there's 5 outfielders, and I set it up just like a showcase program. So you got 5 pitchers, 5 infielders, 5 outfielders, 2 catchers, and 2 utility players. So you got 19 kids on the first team, 19 on the second team. The first team outfield, five players. The lowest batting average was 478, and we're talking 5A, 6A, and you got some mixed in. The first team pitching staff, the highest ERA was 1.02. And 90 strikeouts was the lowest total. So, and these kids, they love the recognition and they need it because it helps them. It helps their psyche a little bit, knowing that somebody's paying attention out there.
It gives them purpose.
Yeah, it gives them some purpose out there besides getting a certificate that says, hey, you got all state. They're going to be able to save their clippings. They'll save their screenshots.
Yeah.
Show you how old we are now. So that's what they'll get to do. And, I love talking to people, and I ask them all the time, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to see this thing grow into? Because I think it's just in its infancy stages. Kyle and I talk all the time, and, we've become great friends over this because we're partners in this, just like, the 4 of us were at one time. So we've been able to help this thing grow, but it's, Michael Jordan wasn't satisfied with just one title. It's what's next. And that's what Tommy Richardson at Woodlawn always says. He's got his 9th state title, his state championship. And his motto is, we're just figuring out how to win the next one. So this year was better than last, and next year will be better than this one.
Well, Cabo, again, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I mean, no one breaks down baseball, any level than you. I really enjoy like the text messages of just, you see your passion when we're talking and stuff. And that's what I love about what you do. And that's why we always do this. But again, Appreciate you coming on and breaking this down. We'll have the podcast uploaded in the morning if you didn't get to catch this live show. But Cabo, we'll definitely have you on, and hopefully we'll be talking next week or the week after about Omaha.
2 weeks, we'll be going to Omaha. So, yeah, we'll come on and break down the Elite Eight at that point.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
That was Kevin Bohannon. Again, I mean, nobody breaks it down better than Cabo, the guru. I mean, that wasn't a name given to him by himself. That was given to him by colleagues. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. After the break, we have Ethan Westerman. We're going to talk about his featured article in the upcoming episode of Hawg's Illustrated about Rocket Sanders, and we'll catch you after the break.
At Fordham Lee Distillery, our bourbons look as amazing as they taste. A delicious, high rye bourbon aged over 6 years. Fordham Lee is a company founded on the principles of great folks and spirits worth remembering. Look for Fordham Lee brands at Walk-Ons, Liquor World, Buster's, and soon everywhere in Northwest Arkansas that serves fine spirits. Fordham Lee Bourbon says please drink responsibly. 21 means 21. Fordham Lee Distillery, blended and bottled in Middletown, Maryland.
Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years in the industry, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company.
McCoy Tiger Drug Store of Sheridan, Arkansas has been the top pharmacy in all of South Central Arkansas since 1895. They were also the 2020 Good Neighbor Pharmacy of the Year. They not only fix you up with your prescription with timely and friendly service, but also an elite gift shop. All your OTC needs, baby and wedding registries, tuxedo rentals, and much more. They're located at 821 North Rock Street in Sheridan. Give them a call today at 870-942-5121.
And we welcome you back to the Hawg Talk podcast. And we go back to the Meadows Lumber hotline and bring in Ethan Westerman. Ethan, your very first article gets to be the feature story of Hawg's Illustrated. Couldn't be more proud of you. And just talk about, the article itself and what went into it, and just how much fun was it being able to put this together?
Yeah, it actually wasn't my first article for Hawg's Illustrated. It was my first. Actually, no, it was my second since I've joined full-time. I wrote a football one for the edition before, but this was my first ever cover story to write. So that was pretty cool. Whenever I was just freelancing a lot, I wrote a few stories over the fall. I did a scouting report each week for it. So it's funny because I've really covered football mainly in the fall I did for Whole Hog Sports, visiting locker room report. I'd go to the press conference for the other team. But aside from that, my only experience with football, with college football, was writing for the magazine. So it's kind of been, it's been a really cool outlet for me. Hawg's Illustrated magazine. I'm actually wearing the hat right now, by the way. I'm outside because I was getting my cardio in. Have to do that with the weather like this.
Well, you said you're walking around campus, so that gets you card enough as it is walking up and down the school.
Well, it was just going to be walk. I ended up running, so I'll give myself bonus points today. But there it is. Yeah, that's the that was the cover story for our football preview magazine, which it was really cool because we sat down and kind of discussed like kind of trying to roadmap what the football preview would look like a few months ago. And it's just kind of cool whenever you throw ideas out there on the board and then to see it all come together the way that it did. Like, it's really cool whenever you see something go from just an idea to, that right there, which just to give you a little, to put a little emphasis on, I guess how cool the story was to me. I feel like at this point of just having done a lot of writing and stuff and, have my feet wet a little bit in every sport, it's kind of like strange. I feel like at this point, whenever something just kind of like is a wow moment for me anymore, which is sad because back, like whenever I first started covering this stuff, like there was a lot of those just wow moments. Like, I won't forget the first time I attended, like even like the Blessings Golf Challenge. Whenever I went to that, it was a wow moment because I'd never covered anything college before, but I felt like kind of in the past year with just a lot of the stuff I've covered, I lost a little bit of that. But whenever I walked into Casey's gas station in Springdale the other day and I saw that magazine and that was like it was like a wow moment for me again, which is, it just was a special story. I feel like it was one of those that I knew going into it, it would probably be like a pretty special thing to tell just because you can tell from, what his Rocket's presence on social media that he's like really trying to be like a really good dad to his son. But just getting to talk to his mom about it, it just brought it a lot more to life, kind of about, the maturity that it takes to be a college athlete. And especially, I mean, just at his level too, with what all he's got going on, to be as mature as he is. So yeah, it was a really special article for me just because, like I said, it was like one of those new wow moments, just as far as like seeing it all come together. If you haven't read the story, I just kind of the way the angle I took on this was I gave a little, I mean, going into it, all I knew was I was going to write on Rocket being a dad. But after talking to him and his mom a little bit, I was like, I got to take things back and I got to go back to whenever Rocket was a kid, and talk a little bit about that. So got a chance to talk with his mom, learn a little bit just about his upbringings. He wasn't even a football player for a lot of his life. I don't know if y'all know that, but he thought he was going to be a hooper. And he was really good. I went and watched his huddle highlights of him playing basketball. He was really good. I mean, his mom told me, she was like, oh, he would have gone somewhere with basketball had he kept it. And I believe it. I was watching, I mean, I know huddle highlights only give you a sample size, but I mean, some of the highlights I was watching, I was like, man, dude, you're really good at basketball. But it's crazy because he actually just ended up playing football. He played youth. That's actually how he got his nickname Rocket, was like youth football. But then he quit for a while. And in his 10th grade year, he was like, I want to, his older brother was going to be a senior on the football team. He was like, I want to make some memories with my brother and play football. And he got hurt and it got him out for the whole basketball season from doing that. So he was like kicking himself over it. But by the time he got healed, he was, they were like, hey, you should come to this UCF football camp. And he went there and just took off from there. But it's just it was kind of crazy just to hear his whole background about how he's even at the level that he's at and what all he's gone through. And part of his story is that he was raised, like, for most of his childhood, it was just his mom kind of in the picture. He has a stepdad who he says is awesome now, so he didn't want to like downplay that, but he just let me, like, I think I documented it pretty well in the story, just that his mom really carried the load for them a lot whenever he was younger. And so now it's like his mom's very important to him. And it's kind of cool to see how he's taking how good of a mom she was for him into how good of a dad he's wanting to be for his son. So it was a really cool thing to do. It was also neat because the time of the interview, whenever I did it, was, right before, I think it was during finals week maybe. So it was right before, get a little bit of a break. But it was just cool to see how much you can't fake genuine just excitement. Like it's easy to see through people who aren't actually excited about something. But the way that he just he was ready to go home and was talking to me about all that he was going to take his son to Disney World because he's from right near Orlando. Rockledge is like, I don't know how many minutes away of a drive, but it's not too far. But he was like just getting excited, telling me about all the day he had planned. It was just cool to see that it's a student athlete who was in the middle of finals, who is, on one of the best running backs in the nation entering this next year. But he's just very mature on top of like planning things out. Like he already knew what he was going to do whenever he got home that week and how he wanted to spend his time with his son. So it was just cool to see that maturity. There was a quote in the article by Sam Pittman too, just talking about his maturity, how it's just he's only known mature Rocket because Rocket became a dad. It was right before he came to campus. So he's had to have that maturity from day one for the program. So yeah, it was a pretty special story to write. Really was pleased with how it turned out. Of course, with the cover, it looked cool, and then got some really good photographs in there as well of Rocket whenever he was younger too, and a few photos of him and his son. That's also I gotta throw this in there. One of my favorite parts about talking to him and his mom was they love to like dress RJ as his son. I told him, I said, like, while I was interviewing him, I said, every picture I've seen, I said, he's dripped out. Like, y'all put together some great outfits. And that opened a whole can of worms. I got to hear about, like, favorite outfits from his mom. And it was just super cool. It's fun seeing how much he loves, like, fashion, how, like, important that is to him, and how he's, like, making sure his son has they make sure his son has some great outfits. So it was a really cool story.
And especially with NIL right now, he can spoil that boy, and spoil his mama too.
Well, it was actually, I think he has a big NIL deal with Huggies diapers, which is just kind of it's such a unique thing. It's just cool to see Rocket, getting on a short little commercial endorsing a diaper brand. It's just he's fully embraced being a dad, and it's cool to see because a lot of people in his shoes wouldn't. There's a lot of people who are his age who don't really have anything to do with their child at this point, and he's doing everything that he can to be a big part of his life. So, and it was also cool to hear just how he's thinking. He's just really mature. That was my main takeaway from talking with him, was just very mature, how he's thinking about things, how he's very long-term focused on like what he's doing now. And like the decisions he makes for his son is very long-term focused. Just trying to make sure that, because he hates being away. He FaceTimes all the time. He just hates being away from him. So doing all that he can to, set up for the future.
So, kind of talked about what you got, working on now, especially with football approaching and summertime and where everybody can find, the Hogs Illustrateds on shelves, what stores they're being sold at.
Yeah, so fun fact, I'm learning this as we go as far as like where you can find them. I found Casey's because I saw it and I was like, that's really cool. So I know that for a fact, a lot of them in Northwest Arkansas. I don't really know like statewide or other places, like what all other places have them, but it's for anybody that's wanting to access it. You can access it online, purchase a subscription to it. Just if you go to the Hogs Illustrated website or Whole Hog, you can click on, there's like a Hogs Illustrated button at the top. And it's pretty easy to subscribe. My mom just did it, so that was kind of cool. She saw my story and she's like subscribe. So that was neat to see. What's cool about the subscription is it's $17 a month, but it will get you access to not only Hogs Illustrated, but like to all the stories we do on Whole Hog, and stuff like that. Like anything that's kind of associated with our Hog Sports Network, the bundle, all that's what the subscription is for. It's for everything. And so, but I think Hogs Illustrated it's really special to me, our editions that we do, because it's just such unique content. Like we don't put the stories that are in there are unique to Hogs Illustrated. Like you don't see it anywhere else. And so I've got some of my favorite stories I've gotten to write have been for Hogs Illustrated. I'd say maybe my favorite story I've ever written was this past fall. I wrote one on Michaela Daniels on the basketball team and her military upbringing, and that was just so cool. Talking to her parents about that. It's just it's really unique content we put in there. The feature stories and everything we do. So yeah, Hogs Illustrated magazine. You can get it online. I know if you have an iPad, it's really nice because it's like, it feels to me like whenever I read it on an iPad, like it feels almost like a real magazine just because it's so big. The pages can read it super clearly. So yeah.
Well, Ethan, I know, but when, football comes around, we're going to have you on, when you start breaking down summer practices and stuff and what you're seeing, and really looking forward to, I can't believe, postseason baseball's here, but I know right around the corner, I know we're starting the countdown to football season. So really looking forward to having you on every week to really break that stuff down. And of course, when the football season, gets here, breaking down post game and really talking about the outlook for the team ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited it's kind of a weird time of year, I think, for everybody. Of course, baseball with College World Series and everything, or I can't, probably getting ahead of myself saying College World Series coming up with the NCAA tournament coming up. It's like, there's still stuff going on, but it's a weird season for me because, I've been like covering the women's basketball and softball and all that nonstop. And I did high school football this past fall. It's like the first time since August I've just been kind of like, okay, what am I, what's going on?
Embrace it.
So it's kind of funny because I'm ready for, I don't know if I'm breaking up.
It is a little bit, but that's all right. But yeah, Ethan, we appreciate you coming on.
I can hear you, but I think it's breaking up.
All right, we'll catch you next week, man. That was Ethan Westerman. Again, one of our good friends. I really enjoyed covering the women's sports with him and stuff, and an up-and-comer when it comes to writing. And I'll tell you what, he's been thrown to the wolves and he's done the most with it. And I'll tell you what, he's one of the hardest workers I've ever met when it comes to doing that. But Jacob, I guess we'll wrap it up with just thoughts of the baseball. We'll go back to the baseball and talk about, this regional and potential, super regional. And what are you looking forward to the most when it comes to this weekend and potentially next weekend?
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the potential matchup, maybe the rematch between TCU and Arkansas. If TCU didn't get bounced in early on, that would be a blessing in disguise because I feel like TCU, they've been up and down the stretch of the season out of the Big 12. Really think Santa Clara they have a little bit of pop, just like Kevin Bohannon said. I'm really interested to see who starts. I think Hunter Holland may have the opportunity. That's what I've heard. Not through the grapevine, but I'm saying I feel like Hunter's got a good case to start. He's been the most consistent pitcher all season long. And I'd really like to see Arkansas matched up against Arizona. They've been winners of 9 of their last 14 games. Big victories. They had a victory over Tennessee this season, Michigan State, USC, and several other, I think Oregon State and one other top 25 team. So they're not a slouch either, a 3 seed. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that game may look like as well. As far as the very next week with the Terry Hott potential matchup with those guys, I think Arkansas has a favorable matchup. If Indiana State or Iowa, whoever comes out of that regional, I think Arkansas is set up to have a absolutely incredible super regional. I really hope that's the case, and hopefully Arkansas gets it done and taken care of on Sunday.
Like we were talking about with Cabo, and we've mentioned previous episodes of just how business-like this team is, but laid back. They're not stressed. They're not tense. They don't feel like it's a Omaha or bust kind of season, Absolutely. Whether it be or not. But they're treating it like one game at a time. And I think, all right, now's the time to really turn the Jets on. They've shown us, they've proven to everybody what this team is. They've proven to everybody that this team belongs in Omaha. They belong, and I said this, I believe it was a month ago, when I said it would be a team like this that would win the College World Series. And I'm telling you, the way things are set up and the way they're not taking anybody lightly, and that's from playing in the SEC. I know everybody says SEC is the best in all the conferences, but I'm telling you, the grind of playing, it's not like football. You're playing them once on a Saturday. You're playing the top teams in the country Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and mix in a Monday. And then you're throwing in a midweek game with, Little Rock and, Lipscomb, who's in the tournament, So this team is very well seasoned. They're ready to go. And I think it's time to take care of business. And I'm not saying by any means this is a cakewalk, but it's just the fact that you're not having to go into a super regional where you're having to play an SEC team. And I know there's a lot of SEC teams that make it to the super, but I wish there was a way to try to, because honestly, let's just face it, it's not fair to the SEC teams to go through the schedule and then you bunch a couple of them against each other in the supers. I mean, so it's almost like, but with how many make it, I mean, I know it's inevitable they're going to match up, but it just seems like a lot of these teams, you look at the Auburn, I mean, say Auburn and Tennessee come out of their region. They're a matchup, a super regional matchup. But yeah, it's nice to know that you could either have Iowa, North Carolina, Wright State, or Indiana State coming to Arkansas next weekend, but you got to take care of business first. And I'm telling you, it's all about, you look at the team this year. This was a team, you look at the injuries, didn't think they would be in the spot they are. So you can't take Santa Clara, Arizona, or TCU, none of them, because this is postseason. You mess around and take advantage of this team or underestimate a team, you're going to be sitting at home next weekend while they took your spot and they're heading somewhere else to play for a chance to Omaha.
Yeah, and you think about it, like I was talking to Cabo this morning, I was like, Arkansas, man, do you really think they're going to get matched up with an SEC team? Like I really felt like Arkansas was either going to get Alabama or Auburn in the super regionals if they made it up. And I'm thankful. Like that was the best case scenario because now you're looking at like, okay, we know how hot Arkansas has been. We know the level that Arkansas is able to get to. And we saw it last year. You think about the home runs by Brady Slavens and Jalen Battles in Omaha. This team last year, they weren't hot until they got to the postseason. This team right here has battled and been hot outside of the SEC tournament. Going into the postseason, they're one of the hottest teams in college baseball. You look at guys like, and I know, man, I've been riding Peyton Holt's coattails for over a month and a half now. But that guy has put it all on the line for the Razorbacks. A guy that's been hitting like 433 or 430 or 443, something like that. One home run, 17 RBIs since he was inserted in the starting lineup and made some exceptional plays, whether it be the diving stop against A&M to throw it first to get the first out in the ninth inning, or whether it was Peyton Holt turning and faking a throw to first in the SEC tournament and throwing it back to third base instead of making a double play. Like, guys like these guys have high IQs and they're playing out of their minds right now defensively. And I think, I know there's some comments earlier that, are concerned about the top of the half hitters, whether it's Jared Wagner, whether it's Tavian Josenberger. Those guys, they were hot at the beginning of the year and they were consistent throughout the year before their injuries. I think, and we've seen it. We've seen pop and like Jared Wagner hitting a home run or the grand slam in the SEC tournament to beat A&M. They are just right there. And I think once they get past that wall before or after their injuries, Arkansas is going to be a team you don't want to face in Omaha.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They've proven there, and you're only going to get stronger, because, I mean, I know you have the grind of the weekend, but, you're going in. There's no more midweek games to prep for. This is, get through the regional, go to supers, and then you worry about the layout of the College World Series. But, playing in the SEC tournament, that kind of helps you with that weird format of the pool play or double elimination to the semifinals or whatnot, and then how things play out in Omaha. But really looking forward to the next couple of weeks. I mean, now everybody's going to be packed. Poor Santa Clara, 9,000 for the whole season, and they're going to be seeing,
at least 11,000 in one night.
12 in one night. So that's going to be interesting to how their take on the crowd. But it seems like every year they get one of those teams that just come in and they're not used to having the fans, and they're about to experience SEC baseball. But yeah, this is without, I don't want to jinx anything, but I just have a special feeling about this team because it's a hardworking team that they've had to rely on each other to get to this point. And just how relaxed Dave Van Horn's been, the fact he's just not as tense and the pressure, and I think, again, nobody deserves a national championship more than Dave Van Horn. And this is going to be a fun postseason.
Yep. First game starts at 2 p.m. Or Arkansas's first game starts at 2 p.m. versus Santa Clara. Bless their hearts. I really feel bad for them because they're going to be hearing something like you. Did you see that TikTok the other day of that there was a comedian and he said, "I ain't ever been in a football stadium with 80,000 hillbillies going woo, pick six."
Yeah,
it was like, and it's going to be a culture shock to these Santa Clara guys.
I take offense when everybody mentions Arkansas, they say hillbillies. We're only in Ozark, okay? You know, everybody wants, you see the helmet up there. That's the Ozark hillbillies. I mean, that's what they think the whole state, but no. It's just, I laugh every time when they say, because I guarantee you when they make that joke, they don't realize, hey, we actually have and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's like we actually have a mascot called the Hillbillies. And then they're probably, see, I told you. But Jake, if you ain't got anything else, man, I'll wrap this bad boy up.
I do want to brag on Ethan, though, about his little article. We didn't get to mention, like, there is some publications out there that are really high on Rocket Centers, and that's what I'm going to close on. He is projected by 247 Sports as the 22nd overall pick in next year's NFL draft to the Chargers. He's the 36th overall player, according to Sports Illustrated. He is the second best returning running back in the country, according to ESPN. Like, this guy is about to make some money.
Oh, yeah.
And he's about to take care of that baby and mama.
And a running back in today's game, you know, that to be rated that high. I mean, that's saying something about, you know,
first overall running back taken.
Yeah. And good luck to him. Good luck to him the rest of the year. If you can't, you know, get out there and get a Hogs Illustrated at Casey's at your local, or go online, check that story out, subscribe. But for Jacob Davis, I'm Porter Hayes. We will catch you next week, hopefully talking about who Arkansas is matched up against in the Super Regionals.
Go Hogs.